everyone. This is Jim Biringer here, NHLRumors.com. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below, give us your thoughts. Stanley Cup playoffs are underway. Day 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs are here. Got a lot of series kicking off. We also have Edmonton kicking off their series on Monday when you see this. However, besides the playoff talk, besides what's going on, we're seeing the 16 teams out of the playoffs, locker room cleanouts, a lot of noise, a lot of chatter, a lot of dysfunction going around the league. Obviously, we see the dysfunction, and when you on that hamster wheel of death, like we see with the New York Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs have somehow got on that hamster wheel for some reason. Vancouver Canucks have been on it forever. It feels like they've been on it since 2011 and never gotten off. Winnipeg's starting to have that chaos again. You look at the standards in the National Hockey League, you're seeing the winning teams, the teams that feel like they should keep going, make changes. And we're going to get to Winnipeg and what Connor Hellebuck has to say, because there's definitely a narrative going around and swirling around ever since Team USA won the gold medal that American players are probably not going to be playing in Canada anymore. And now you're seeing all these experts say, oh, you know, teams should be wary of drafting American players and all that. Well, I mean, there is a team in Montreal, has a lot of American players on it. They're going to the playoffs, winning cures all, doing things the right way kind of helps. But before we get to Winnipeg, we got to start in Toronto and then Vancouver, the dysfunction that is these both two teams and the message and the clarity and everything from the top to the bottom, because look, they got a big summer coming up ahead in Toronto. We saw what happened in New Jersey. Sonny Mehta gets hired as the general manager of the New Jersey Devils. He was one of the top candidates for the Toronto job, and now he's off the board. And does this speed up the Toronto process? Do they continue to go through their long-awaited process, or do they try to go get their man? Because in New Jersey, talking to some people during the process, Sonny Mehta was always the clubhouse leader. They turned him into John Harbaugh with the New York Giants. In that case, this time, however, Harbaugh left the Giants facility without a contract. The Maras had to go get him and sign him to a deal. In the Devils case, they signed Sonny Mehta after they fired Tom Fitzgerald. Didn't want to let him leave the building without a contract. He does it. Now he's got questions about, you know, what does Nico Heischer's contract look like, future Sheldon Keefe, Simone Nemec, Dougie Hamilton, and all that. Well, there's a similar situation happening in Toronto. Whoever their top candidate is, they can't let them leave the building. We know they're going to try to bring back Matt Sundin in an advisory role or some type of management role, which is good. You see success in Edmonton. You've seen success in Ottawa. You've seen success in Montreal. You've seen success Pittsburgh, all these places that bring back some of their former players into that management, have them on the advisory role. That's the way to change the culture. And the messaging. The messaging is getting lost in Toronto. It's just an organizational disaster. And this is not on Keith Pelly. It's on MLSE. It's on everybody, because there's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many people with their hand in something trying to give a different message. There's not in sports, unlike the business world, and the business world has a problem with this too. When you have too many people, the message gets lost. It's easy in sports. You have the owner, president, general manager, couple assistant GMs, team, and it just filters down. Toronto's got like 6 assistant general managers. They got a Keith Pelly. You don't have a president of hockey ops. You don't have a GM. It's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of dysfunction, and that's what happened in Toronto this year. And you have players speaking out. You have the coach speaking out. Nothing's changed. Put the Mitch Marner stuff aside. You knew the team was going to take a step back. You didn't think they'd take a nosedive like this. There's just a lot of dysfunction, uncertainty around the team. And when Keith Pelly speaks, it just doesn't bring you what it should. And yeah, they want to go after numbers guy. They want to go after a guy with analytics, data-centric, turn things around. But this is the issue when either owners or presidents, CEOs have too many things going on. What works in one area of the sports world does not work in the other. It's not translatable. You want to bring in AI and data-centric and all that stuff to soccer, to basketball, great. Sometimes it doesn't work in hockey. Data is everything. It helps you make a decision, but you shouldn't be bringing AI into trade deadline. Like Keith Pelly's trying to be Jerry Jones and it doesn't work. And he wants to be hands off, but he's in the weeds. He says he doesn't want to be in the weeds, but he's in the weeds. And there's a lot of dysfunction. Now, where do they go? Is it Chris Pronger? Is it Brandon Pridham? Is it Ryan Hardy? Is it Ryan Martin? Is it Mike Gillis coming in? Who are they looking at to get and turn this thing around and be like the Boston Bruins, because they're obsessed with being the Boston Bruins. They just want a quick turnaround, like Pittsburgh, like Washington, like Boston. They need to look in the mirror and see, we've caused this dysfunction. We haven't set the tone. And whoever the manager is that comes in, or president or whatever, has to say, this is the way we're doing things. The players don't have control anymore. And that's what there's a lot of uncertainty, because sometimes, as much as they want to turn things around, they may have to rip it down. And we talk about Montreal. There was a lot of pain in Montreal for a lot of years until they got this core together. Toronto went through that same pain. Everybody thought, hey, they're going to make some playoff runs. They're going to do, but they just never could play the right way. And they don't have that culture. And I think that's an issue. And I'm not blaming Austin Matthews, John Tavares, whoever was there. It's just, sometimes it's just not in your DNA, or you don't have that guy to bring it out in you. And you can hear all the quotes from Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes and everybody after Team USA won. Austin Matthews has become a secondary support player. That's not who he is. When the Maple Leafs were going with Marner, he wasn't a secondary support piece. Whether he's hurt, whether his mindset's just not there, something is not right with Austin Matthews. And he has an uncertain future in Toronto. He talked about it. He's heard the noise. He said he's not sure about the future, what's it going to hold in Toronto. Again, there's so much uncertainty because there's no GM, there's no president, there's no direction. And even if there is, what is the actual direction and message? Because if it has to go through 8 people, it's like a game of telephone. It's not going anywhere. And I think the Leafs have to really look in the mirror and say, okay, who are we looking for? What kind of messaging do we want to have? How do we turn this thing around? Because there's going to be some tough decisions. We know Matthews' history. It seems like it follows him everywhere he goes. He's going to leave. When Arizona was still a franchise, he's going to go to Arizona. He's going to go home. He's going to go home. He ended up staying, short-term deals, but he ended up staying. This time, as much as people in Toronto say he wants to stay, he wants to win there, he says he wants to win there, he likes Toronto, loves being the captain, there's just a little air of uncertainty now about, oh, maybe, if this becomes a rebuild, does he really want to stick around? Because William Nylander has basically flat out said, if this is a rebuild, I want out. And, John Tavares isn't getting any younger. What about Matthew Nyes? Morgan Riley loves playing for the Maple Leafs. He needs a change of scenery. So much uncertainty, especially for the captain. And look, I'm not trying to knock Austin Matthews as a captain. Look, he can lead in his own way. Everybody leads in their own way. Everybody doesn't have to be Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky, guys like that. But it just feels like Austin Matthews has the Patrick Elias syndrome. Elias, great leader, offensive leader for New Jersey Devils, just not that guy in front of the camera. It's too monotone. No one's angry enough. No one's, mad. And yeah, what did anybody expect Matthews to say when he, said what he said during the breakup day? He looked disappointed. He looked depressed. He looked like, yeah, we're out of the playoffs. But the way he says it, the monotone, it's not like they're mad. So something has to change in Toronto, whatever the messaging is, who they get, who comes in. Is it a guy like Pronger? Is it a guy like Mike Gillis? Doesn't sound like it's going to be Ross Mahoney. And I'm going to tell you this, guys like Ross Mahoney, Mike Fuda, Mark Yannetti, Martin Madden, guys like that is who I'm building my team around, because they know how to draft, they know how to develop, they know how to scout, amateur pro scouting. It's about your staff. It's about valuing the players that you have. The Toronto Maple Leafs gave away too many young players that could be helping them right now because they either overvalued them, undervalued them, or didn't scout them well enough and not let them develop. And that's what guys like Ross Mahoney, Martin Madden, and all those guys do. Martin Madden made a factory of defensemen in Anaheim, not only for the Ducks, but for the rest of the league. See how everybody's doing. You see what Mark Yannetti's done with the LA Kings. Ross Mahoney, what he's done in second round through 7th rounds. Like, those are the type of guys you win with. Sonny Mendes is going to be great in New Jersey, no doubt about it, but it's the team you put around them and the moves you make. So Austin Matthews, definitely uncertain. Again, you hear the Mike Johnsons, the Dave McCarthy's, the guys in Toronto say, yeah, he loves playing there. He wants to be there, all that. He's got 2 years left. This was the time when they went to him a couple of years ago before he just signed that extension that he's currently on, $13.25 million, where they're like, okay, what's the future hold? This time, I think there's a little bit of uncertainty. I think there's a lot of geopolitical stuff that could come into this. As much as we don't want to talk about it, it's there. The Mitch Marner questions got under his skin a little bit. The questioning of what he did after he won. I think there's a lot of stuff. As much as he won and he wore the C, It was the Jack Hughes show. It was the Quinn Hughes show. It was other guys for Team USA. It wasn't just Austin Matthews. I think it was the biggest show was Connor Hellebuck, who we'll get to in a minute. But the other dysfunctional mess in Canada right now is the Vancouver Canucks. Whatever that was on Friday, whatever that press conference was, sounded like Jim Rutherford was talking outside of both of his sides of his mouth. Shout out to Thomas Rose, Sweden, who broke the story late Thursday in Sweden, early morning Friday here on the East Coast, as well in the States and in Canada. Said Patrick Allvin had been fired. Not surprised. He became the fall guy for a team that's totally dysfunctional. Since they won the Pacific, top seed in the Western Conference, all those 2024 feels like a lifetime ago when they made it to Game 7 against the Edmonton Oilers with Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, Brock Besser, all those guys. This team needs to look themselves in the mirror, but when you're a dysfunctional team, you do not do that. You have to look yourself in the mirror and say, how did we get here? Why did we get here? How quickly can we turn this around? Look, there's a mess in Vancouver. And it goes back years in Vancouver. Bo Horvat trade, not a good idea. Should have kept him. He's flourishing on the island. What you got, not good enough. Trading JT Miller for Phil Pedal and pieces, just not work. Victor Mancini's turned into a good player. The haul you got for Quinn Hughes is fine. But the messaging from the coach to the players, from the GM, like Patrick Allvin tried to get this team going in a rebuild and trying to play the young players, but Adam Foote didn't want it, so it wasn't really the right hire at the time. And you have to get a coach that's going to go through a lot of growing pains and a GM that's going to go through a lot of growing pains like we see in San Jose. Again, we bring up the Montreal model. Martin St. Louis, perfect coach for that team, right? Is Jeff Blashill the perfect coach for Chicago? We're going to find out. Kyle Davidson gets an extension there. Ryan Warsofsky in San Jose. Growing pains, but at some point, those growing pains have to turn into expectations like we're seeing in Detroit with Steve Yzerman. Can't keep doing this in Detroit. They got to turn this around. Again, as Elliot Friedman reported and many others, that's going to be on Steve Yzerman. That's his decision to make. But Jim Rutherford fired Patrick Allvin for whatever reason. He didn't do anything. We knew Jim Rutherford was a GM. We knew Jim Rutherford was president of hockey operation. We knew Jim Rutherford was doing everything. He even said so. He was the one that did the Quinn Hughes trade. Where was Patrick Allvin doing other things? What was he doing? Writing letters? Like, again, not to be cynical here, but yeah, I'm supposed to be an analyst, but like, what did he do for this team? Was he a scout? Was he a glorified assistant general manager? What did he do? And his scouting, if you go back, you can ask Shane Malloy this. You go back to his scouting and his drafting in Pittsburgh wasn't good. It's not been good in Vancouver. So whatever they were going to offer a vice president role, that's the problem with Vancouver. Too much loyalty and too much indecision. If you're going to move on from a guy, move on from a guy. If you want to keep a guy, keep a guy. You saw it with JT Miller in his contract here. Probably should have traded him then. Instead, 8-year extension. Same with Elias Pettersson. They believe he can turn it around. He believes he can turn it around. We have yet to see him do it. But both got signed to 8-year extensions, knowing the dysfunction. Signed Thatcher Demko to an extension with a full no-move clause, all 3 years. The guy's been hurt. You signed Connor Garland, now you traded him. Okay, there's a lot of, the Jake DeBrusk contract was just out there. Then to get to the Quinn Hughes saga and the mess, he knew for 2 years he was gone. Wanted to go back to the States. Wanted to trade him to the Devils. Was trying to wait to do the Devil deal. They were going to get the Devils deals done in December when Quinn Hughes was in New Jersey. That didn't get done. Minnesota swoops in and gets him. And now, you knew you were going to move on from him, but you still tried to sign all his friends to convince him to stay, even though he knew he was gone. Like, there's too much dysfunction and no direction with the Vancouver Canucks. And he's like, oh, well, we're trying to get him to stay, but it really had nothing to do with the team being bad. He just wanted to go home. It was a Matthew Tkachuk situation. Matthew Tkachuk just wanted to get out of Calgary. They had a good situation. It's like, this guy's talking outside of both sides of his mouth. He's like, well, and Jim and Patrick Allvin could have made his own decisions, but I was running hockey ops. It's like, bro, he could have, but he didn't have any power. It's just, and now that they're going to hire the new GM, he doesn't, and Rutherford's not sure how long he's going to be there. He's going to work through the draft and see. It's like, why would anybody want to go there? And I get it. There's people in Vancouver, Irfan Gaffar of Daily Faceoff and Fourth Period has talked about it. It's like it's a coveted job still because it's one of 32 jobs. We all get it, but there's dysfunction. What player wants to go to a team that there's dysfunction? You're seeing why players want to go to Utah. Players want to go places where they can win, not have dysfunction. Seeing that in Toronto now. All of a sudden, Toronto used to be a destination. Now it may not be. Vancouver, hard destination. But when they were winning, players wanted to go there. And you're seeing the dysfunction is just out of control. And, is it a rebuild? Is it a hybrid retool? Is it what? He goes to Francois Aquilini, the owner of the Vancouver Canucks, Rutherford does. And he says, yeah, it's a rebuild. It's going to take a little bit. But he's like, I was trying to speed it up as quickly as possible. This is the problem in the Vancouver Canucks. They have yet to really, truly tear it down from the Sedin era and turn it around. You thought you were doing that with Quinn Hughes. You were there. Just the injuries. You moved out Seeloff. Just a lot of poor, bad decision-making leads to the dysfunction in Vancouver. They got a lot of question marks. Who's actually going to be on this team? Is Elias Pettersson really going to be there? What anybody wants that contract? And when you try to redo your roster every season before the quarter mark, that's a problem. The offseason is the time for change, not a quarter of the way in. I don't like my mix. Like, you wonder why there's dysfunction in Vancouver. Here we are. Now we got to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. Connor Hellebuck put them on blast. Basically, Connor McDavid saying we need to be better. We can't put the same product on the ice. At some point, I got to start winning. I want to win a Stanley Cup, the gold medal, winning goalie for Team USA, who's proven he can do it in big moments, but he hasn't proven it in the playoffs yet. Jake Ottinger's having the same problem right now in Dallas after a poor game one. See if he can bounce back. But Connor Hellebuck, Kyle Connor, Gabe Vilardi, put Kevin Cheveldayoff on notice. And in other places, maybe Kevin Cheveldayoff is already out of a job. Again, loyalty. Is it too much by Mark Chipman to keep Cheveldayoff around? He hasn't been aggressive. He moved out. But the Winnipeg Jets, after the trade deadline, were really good. But they got to a point where they just couldn't win. And they needed to win the big one and couldn't get there. Is it on Hellebuck? Yes, he was hurt at the beginning of the year, but he needs to play better. The rest of Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele did their job, but losing Ehlers was bad. Is it time for Scott Arniel to be let go? Is it time for Cheveldayoff to leave? They had this problem a couple of years ago with the Wheelers after Rick Bowness Part 1. And Wheeler moved out. They were able to get Scheifele and Hellebuck to sign some deals. Now, you're wondering if Connor Hellebuck's going to be there for a few more seasons. 33 years old and wants to win a Stanley Cup. $8.5 million deal. Who's going to take it on? Is it a player? Is it a team like Florida? Everybody's linking them there. I'm still convinced Sergei Bobrovsky signs a 2-year deal. Why would you move on from a playoff-proven Stanley Cup winning, 2-time Stanley Cup winning goaltender that probably could have won a Conn Smythe, won some Vezinas? Yes, we know Connor Hellebuck's won a Hart Trophy, multiple Vezinas. What has he done in the playoffs? Like, the 2018 run has been great. Outside of that, the Jets have not been good recently in the playoffs. Is it their system? Would Florida's system protect them a little bit more? What's Florida got to give up? They got a top 10 pick now. Sure, they could give that up. What else are you giving up? They really don't have a lot of prospects and things the Winnipeg Jets really need. Like, they love Anton Lundell. I don't know if they would really want to part with him. They're going to have to part with somebody if they do it. But to me, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. This Connor Hellebuck maybe feels rejuvenated. Maybe he feels more confident. But again, what has he done in the playoffs? And who says he can have success down in Florida? They know what they want to do. The GM wants Sergei Bobrovsky back. The players want him back. He wants to be back. He chose Florida for a reason. Where would Hellebuck go? Could he go to New Jersey? That's going to be a tough ask for Sonny Meta to move all these players out, to move the money. Again, and do these no trade clauses come into effect down in New Jersey? Again, Dougie Hamilton did not speak during exit interviews. He just let the speculation continue about whether or not he remains in New Jersey. Convinced he's not. They get either at the draft or after a signing bonus is paid, he's gone. Nico Hischier needs a new extension. He talked about he's a devil for right now. He loves it in New Jersey. He wants to be there. There's some uncertainty. He'll talk to Meta and his camp. Simone Nemec wants to remain in New Jersey as well, but there's been no contract discussions. And, from what I'm told, he's open to a new scenery and a change of scenery, but he wants playing more minutes in New Jersey. If they move out Dougie Hamilton, maybe you can do that. There were a lot of mistakes Tom Fitzgerald made to hurt this roster, and they need more installation. They got to look at what they can do and make this team into a contender. So does that fit? Where could he go if he were to move and say he wants out? Because we know both guys don't want to be a part of a rebuild in Winnipeg. That's clear, and maybe that's what they need to do. And he's a good goaltender. Somebody would take him. But again, that playoff history, right? Now, you look at it around the league. We've talked about Toronto. We've talked about New Jersey. We've talked about Vancouver. New York's got the same chaos that's going on with the Rangers. Chris Drury's like, I still don't know what this timeline is. You got to stop asking me questions about it. We're on a retool. We're turning certain things around. We want the young guys to play. But he's not sure how long. That's dysfunction from the top up. James Dolan, again, any other organization with the moves Chris Drury made over the last couple of years probably would have been fired. Now he's going to give him a chance to fix it. But if he can't fix it, they got to make changes. Like, I truly believe Vincent Trocheck needs to be traded in the summer. Get whatever you can get for him. Get the right package for him and move on. Detroit should have traded for him. Minnesota should have traded for him. Teams like that should have traded for him. But he had to make up for the deals that he lost, especially the Panarin trade to LA. He's got to make up and fix that cupboard in New York. There's a lot of changes going on. Sounds like Adam Fox wants to stay. Mika Zibanejad wants to stay in New York. The Rangers looking up. They're seeing the energy these young guys are bringing, right? Energy. We saw it on the island with Matthew Schaefer, right? Sounds like Matthew Darsh wants to bring back Anders Lee. This group, but he's got to make other changes on that team. Can't just rely on Schaefer, Sorokin, all this. They got to change the mix there. Again, Rangers, like what they're doing with the youth, should have happened a year and a half ago. It didn't. But again, loyalty, dysfunction. These teams like dysfunction. Teams that love dysfunction are always going to be dysfunctional. And they wonder why they're losing. They don't look themselves in the mirror and figure it out. I think that's something you got to watch. Nashville, another team. What are we doing here? Congrats to Steven Stamkos for turning it around. Not dead yet. 42 goals. Team just fell short. But what are they doing? We know Barry Trotz stepping down as a GM. They're looking at some candidates. Is Tom Fitzgerald the right mix? The right guy there? We know he's going to interview. We know he was their first captain. We know what Barry Trotz did with that team. Is Fitzgerald the right guy? They should go external. Bill Scott had some good interviews with them. Where do they go? Jeff Kelty was a good interview, but I don't think they're going to stay, with what they have. We know Nick Saban has been really highly involved in this. No coincidence of the timing. Barry Trotz had the meeting with ownership in December. Nick Saban came in as a minority owner in December. From what I was told, part of the decision was that Saban isn't sure what Trotz could do. Wants to bring winning to the organization. He's a winner. That's all he's known. And he has the right mindset to do it. Where do they look? Is Ryan Martin part of that group? Is it Tom Fitzgerald? Nashville's got some big asks to make. And again, Ryan O'Reilly was loyal to Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz was loyal to him. He convinced, it's like, yeah, I know you don't have trade protection officially, but it's the unofficial, official trade protection. Teams are calling about Ryan O'Reilly. Teams are going to call about Ryan O'Reilly again. Does the new GM honor that agreement, or be like, hey, I got the best package available. I have to move you. It's going to be interesting. Stamkos is open to a change of scenery if they bring him something. Changes could be coming to Nashville as well. But again, Nick Saban, part of this thing, and I was writing about it and was told about it, and now hearing about it from Elliot Friedman, just, again, the work that's been put in behind the scenes is a lot. And, Nick Saban, he wants to win and he understands what it takes to win. And he might not have been fully on board with what Barry Trotz was doing in Nashville, convinced of it right now. So, again, things to watch moving forward here. But again, the dysfunctional teams, we put them together. Vancouver, Winnipeg, Toronto. You got New York in there. New Jersey a little bit dysfunctional too, right? Detroit. What's their future going to be? What's Dylan Larkin's future there? A lot of things moving, a lot of moving parts there. But this has just been part one of a rumors video that we're going to touch on because we got a lot of other stuff. We're talking about Alex Ovechkin's future. Sounds like he wants to come back. What's Macklin Celebrini going to do? What's Connor Bedard going to do? What are those contracts going to look like? Kenny Malkin, he's coming back. He wants to be back in Pittsburgh, right? I mean, just a lot of stuff out there on the table right now when it comes to these rumors because 16 teams didn't make the playoffs, right? But there's other stuff. Teams in the playoffs still got players. Alex Tuch, what's he going to do? Does he want to stay? Is he going to stay, right? What about the Americans, the American exodus? We've talked about Hellebuck and Matthews, but what about Brady Tkachuk? Is he going to stay in Ottawa? Does that lead to a bigger exodus, the American exodus outside of, the Canadians, right? Like, again, who knows, right? Brady Tkachuk could say, I want out after this playoff run. And he might. Maybe he's tired of the monarchy, but a lot of it's geopolitical, out of his control. So there's just so much to touch on with all these exit interviews coming out, year-end pressers, teams making changes. We got a lot to dive into. We're going to start up some new shows as well. But this is Jim Biringer here, NHLRumors.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sign up as well on NHLRumors.com. Subscribe, like, comment below. We'll be back again. Take care.